that your property insurance may not cover rioting.
Yes.
The insurance companies sometimes can write that off and not pay a thing. So these black business owners may lose everything. And
you know,
if
even
their policy
if
does not cover rioting.
That's right, Ken. That they may have an exception for that. We see in a lot of these insurance policies you point out. I hadn't thought about that. War, they write that off, and so they kind of look at the rioting as, in many cases, as an extension of that. Even if they get money back, even if they are able to rebuild their business, these people are not, they don't have massive bank accounts. Every small businessman that I've known, I was a small businessman for a while. We had a family business. We did things for other, we worked with other small businessmen. We know that they don't have that deep of pockets that they can go for a very long time without any income to rebuild, even if the insurance company is paying to rebuild their business. And so the people who work for them, these people who have been in business for decades, working long hours, investing their life, their time, their capital into this building, they have lost everything because of these violent thugs that we just saw talking to Jakari. That kind of mindset has destroyed their community.
And that brings up another point that Leanne and David, you should understand that each one of these incidences of arson is a crime and must be investigated. You as reporters should go ahead and request from their PR office or whatever the arson reports from each address that was burned, including the cars. An arson investigator is supposed to investigate each one and find the source of the fire. You don't get on your incident report to write down cause of fire, rioting. Yeah,
that's right. That's a very good point, especially with all the questions that have been raised about that particular warehouse and the shooting that was going there. Hang on, Ken. We're going to go right back to Jakari.
As a black man, how do you feel about that? I don't like that, Wilson, but you ain't supposed to break it in the building. Hey. Break it into that Boots Mobile store. It's not going to bring back my career.
Like I broke in the fucking military.
I ain't saying that.
That's what you got to understand.
This is a thug engaging Jakari Jackson in Ferguson, Missouri. This is live.
Look at it. That's how you fight aggression. You got to show people how to fight back. Aggression.
Jakari, come here, man.
How you respond?
What's going on, guys?
No, people tired. That's how you respond to aggression. People are tired.
What was that all about?
You ain't tired of it.
And I told him it didn't have nothing to do with it. I said whoever breaking in the building ain't supposed to break in the building. I'll tell you too, whoever you are. I'm not vouching for people breaking in the building. That's what I try to tell the guy. I said,
they want Alex to come to the hood.
What's breaking in that Boost Mobile store going to do to help anything? He said, I didn't break in the Boost.
Yeah, we got a little bit of a delay here.
Out here justifying people breaking into the Boost Mobile store. I didn't say you did it. I didn't say you burned down whatever building, but people aren't supposed to be out here burning down buildings. That's not going to bring back my ground. That's not going to do anything to Darren Wilson. All it's doing is tearing down his community. That's all I said. This dude, whoever he is, just walked the floor, tried to tear me down. He thought I was about to run from him. I ain't run from him. I said, he said, send your boy down here, and I'll tell him to talk to him. Rip off your mask, I'll tell him to come find you. I'll come find him. So that's what happened.
You guys worry about becoming a part of this?
Anyway, the difference is whoever breaking in the building ain't supposed to be breaking.
Yeah. Wanted to do a little piece of you guys, doing alternative news here.
Yeah.
I mean.
All right, so with this technology, we've got a delay going with Jakari's feed. Who knows? Maybe it's wrapping around the earth a couple times before it comes in to us, and then so it looks like he's okay now, but it did get pretty tense there. Yeah. For a bit. Yeah. Emotions are running high, and I guess if you're not for looting and burning down businesses in the area, especially the small businesses, that's it. Hey, why don't we talk to Biggs real quick and see what's going on? Okay. Joe, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so Jakari's okay now, right?
Talk to Ken.
Yeah, well, this is what happened. I found Jakari, and there was a guy yelling at him and said that,
hey, I just want to let you know the Delta Force guys are watching.
Okay. So what happened was Jakari was sitting over there talking to a guy, and they were mad at him because earlier today on the radio show, I said it's a terrorist act if you're out here burning down buildings and demolishing stuff like that. And then this guy's taking it that I said that everybody out here is a terrorist. So he attacked Jakari, and then I walked over there, and then they all flipped out when I walked over there and said, oh, there he is, there he is. So that's what's going on right now.
Well, yeah, it is a terrorist act, and I think it's kind of interesting this guy's getting in Jakari's face. And what is he trying to do? Is he saying that it's not a terrorist act, that it's justified to burn down his black neighbor's businesses? Is that the point he was trying to make as he stood there in a mask? Was that his point?
Yeah, it's like I said, the people who are doing that are the ones who are obviously here trying to cause trouble.
Yeah.
Because the ones who watch us all the time and the ones that know what we're out here about, against the militarization of police, against people impeding on your rights and things like that. So this is obviously somebody who just wants to come out and be one of the people who's going to be an agitator.
Well, burning down your black neighbor's business because you're mad because you think black people are being oppressed, it seems to me like that would be kind of a no-brainer, that's not going to accomplish anything. They need to have concrete goals and objectives that they can express, like I was pointing out earlier. At the Bundy Ranch, he had very concrete goals and objectives. He didn't achieve all of those, but they need to think about what they want to do. Just going out and mindlessly striking out at people isn't going to accomplish anything. It's just it's idiotic.
It's just making the world look at you like you're being irrational.
Oh, it does.
That's not how you get things done.
It's counterproductive because it just feeds the other side what they're being told, that these people are animals that they can't be dealt with, and so we just need to have a massive police buildup, a militarized police force. That gets fed when people act that way. But
I don't know if they understand that that's how this whole story is now being spun. They're inside the spin.
Yeah.
So I can understand how they might be a little upset with media, but yeah, I mean, that's what's going to happen if they escalate it to rioting and looting. And maybe this person here doesn't even understand to differentiate himself between a protester and a rioter and looter.
Anything else you want to
level?
Yeah, true. Anything else you want to add, Joe, before we go back to Ken? I wanted to talk to the firefighter a little bit longer, and then Rob, what do you think? I think this would be a good time to let Ricky Ross kind of chime in on and let him explain it to this guy.
Yeah, I think he can explain what's going on and this thug behavior that is glorified, and that is being exemplified with some of the residents here at Ferguson is not the answer. It's not going to solve anything. It's not going to bring anybody back. All it's going to do is lower the standards for everybody living in that area. And so, yeah, I agree. Why don't you finish up with Ken? If is he still there? Or do we hang up? Okay. Yeah, we're going to bring Ken back, and then you can finish up with him, and then we'll go to that. And obviously, if anything breaks while we're in the middle of this report, we'll go right back to the action.
Sure.
For those of you watching in YouTube land on youtube.com/the Alex Jones channel.
I don't know. I think they do that so they can clear off that area and not have to worry about anything, and then they can just keep everybody in one centralized location.
Okay, yeah, let's go back to Ken. I know, Leanne, you had a question that you wanted to ask Ken, and then we'll give him a chance for final comments, and then we'll go to the Ricky Ross report and stand by in case something happens live.
Right. Well, Ken, now you mentioned that there's going to be a lot of prep work, and so the fire department would have known. Now, we've been hearing, obviously, we've had months to prepare, and in the weeks building up to where they were saying they were going to announce a grand jury decision, they knew that it was happening. We were getting word that hospitals were preparing. They were setting aside certain 3 levels of the hospital. Schools were all prepared to cancel certain classes, rearrange their schedules. People in office buildings were telling their employees to prepare and to be able to hunker down with food just in case they aren't able to get in and out of their buildings. So everyone was saying, we're preparing for the worst. Does the fire department not prepare for arson?
We prepare for everything. I got in trouble with my department for preparing for aircraft mass casualties incidents. And they said, well, the airport's 45 miles away. And I said, well, that's the point. An airplane with 200 or more souls could crash land in our district anytime, and we're not prepared. So if there was a question of rioting, the fire department could have procured ballistic vests for the firefighters and would have had a contingency plan for the police department to come in. What infuriated me was the number of law enforcement personnel, and I use that term loosely, that were congregated there in a show of force while they would not deploy with the fire department.
Right, and to actually say it's their fault because they just responded too quickly.
That's laughable. We have to move, or they have to move, a giant apparatus with 500 to 1,500 gallons of water down a street that's crowded, and they beat guys that could have jogged on foot or driven cars down to the scene. It's asinine.
Well, I think that's part of what you were seeing everywhere, is that the police were basically, as we saw 3 months ago in the riots in August, we saw that they had removed themselves and they were not protecting any property. They weren't protecting the property. They weren't protecting the firefighters either. So was there anything else that you wanted to say, Ken Moran, before we go to this report from Ricky Ross?
Two messages. One, to the good law enforcement that's in that area. The Bible says, a soft word turneth away wrath.
Yes.
Number two, to my heroes, Joe and Jakari out there. If they light that poor little red Corvette on fire tonight, I don't know if your NBC filters will protect you from the phosgene gas, so you guys stay at least 100 feet away and keep your mask on around any burning cars, anything like that. That's a odorless, colorless gas. You won't feel it, and you'll get nerve damage from it. And poor Joe's already had enough hazmat in his term there.
But very good point. I told them that last night when we were seeing that stuff. I said, you know, your guys walking around the fires, keep those masks on, because you don't know what you're going to get involved with. And of course, that's a very good point, that there's a lot of gases out there that you're not going to see or smell that could be very damaging. Thank you so much for joining us.
The that was harassing Jakari, wait till if the KKK shows up, and then poor Joe's going to be the next sellout. So our appreciation to the guys and the great news crew at Alex Jones.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you calling in. It's very good to have an expert who's had a lot of experience with this to really give us that expert perspective. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Ken Moran. And I would underscore what he just said about a kind word turning away wrath. There was an article that was up on November 20th from NPR. They were talking about how an Alaskan police officer had been killed serving a warrant in a domestic dispute, and how in the rural areas of Alaska, they don't carry guns. It's like Andy Griffith. And, you know, we really need to have that discussion, whether or not we're going to have a police force that looks more like Andy Griffith or whether it looks more like Judge Dredd. And, of course, we're probably not going to reach either of those exact extremes. I don't know, maybe we will get to Judge Dredd, but where do we want to fall in that spectrum? And when he said that, it reminded me of this report. And listen to what this police officer who works there now, even after the other police officer was shot and killed, this is what he says about his police work when he works without a gun. He says he's come to realize that his most important law enforcement tool is his mouth. And this is what he says: how well can you speak to an individual? How can you talk them down? Can you make them understand common sense? If you can get somebody to understand common sense, they're going to follow along with you. See, that's the kind of person, that's the kind of mission, that's the kind of understanding and that we need to have in all of our police departments, not just in rural areas in Alaska. And I think one of the ways that that's going to be achieved is with one of those points from former police officer Frank Serpico saying it has got to be mandatory for police officers to be involved with the community. They need to understand the community. They need to be able to talk to the people, not see them as criminals, as perpetrators, as opponents in a war zone. And unless and until that happens, we are going to continue to see escalated violence, random, senseless killings by the police because of the way that they're trained, because of their mission. It's very important what Ken said. You stop the wrath by checking your mouth. And that's what these police officers who had to work without using a firearm understand. And for the most part, they will be safer themselves in that kind of an environment, because if they escalate the violence, they will also be subject to that violence. Let's go to Ricky Ross, this video that was put together while he was here with Alex Jones. Let's let him explain what's going on, how people are being fed a lie about gang violence and thuggism, and how heroic it is to burn down your black neighbor's business, let alone selling drugs.
I'm the real Rick Ross.
Today, there's a new epidemic, smokable cocaine, otherwise known as crack. I will tell you, Director Deutsch, as a former Los Angeles